Fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. This is an unusual Wednesday night show, and this is another episode of Navigating the Northwoods. So we will kind of cut to the chase. You guys know the deal. If you want to buy some merchandise, all you have to do is send me a message. We're going to have a new email for that. It's MBRR podcast at YouTube. MBRR podcast at yahoo.com. I'll also be putting that link in that address in the chat here in a little while, because at some point we're going to be opening this up for call-in, especially if you have an experience with the Minnesota GOP at any convention or BPOU, or especially at Saturday's event for the State Central Committee. So if you're interested, you can send me an email and say, hey, I'm interested, and then I will send you the link. So I'm not putting the link here in the middle, and I'm getting 5,000 looky-loos all trying to come in and say all sorts of weird things. Yes, I do believe in censoring or controlling commentary on my channel, and I will do that when I deem it necessary for content. But anyway, once again, a reminder to everyone that my friends Bob and Sue, their son, they call him the boy. He is in critical condition out in Reston, Virginia, in the Reston Medical Center, Reston Hospital Center. Was hit by a vehicle last week on Monday night. He is alive. He's had 1 or 2 surgeries now, and he's got some swelling on the brain. So if you're interested in supporting them or finding out what you can do to give them a hand, let me know, and I will connect you with them. I'm also doing a fundraiser for my friend Dana Stevens down in Florida. She is looking to raise money for a probate attorney so that she can go after the hospital system who used a certain set of protocols for a certain virus that is euphemistically and lovingly and warmly referred to as the COOF here on Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. And anybody who donates $100 or more to her between now and the end of January gets a $15 credit towards anything for my merchandise. The new beanies that I have, you guys have seen them already. A bag of coffee, basically, or any of the tumblers or the glasses or the mugs that I have available. 15% of my proceeds from YouTube and from Subscribestar will be going to Dana at the end of January. So by all means, if you're interested, do that. Head over to my Subscribestar. If you haven't picked a level of support there yet, please do so. It helps keep the internet on. Not lying. That's literally pretty much everything that I use it for, is just keep the internet on every month. Maybe I need to do something different if my internet's costing me that much money, by the way. I don't know. And to those of you, especially over at the Arden Sales Group, who are supporting me either through buying merchandise, donations, or Subscribestar, you have no idea what it means to me. There are channels out there who have Patreons and Subscribestars, and they have literally hundreds of people, hundreds. And I think it's easy for the support to be lost in that. But there are people who are on my Subscribestar. There are people who are regular purchasers of my coffee. And there are people who support me through text messages and messages on Twitter, and used to be on Facebook before they decided to nuke me. You guys do not know what you mean to me. I've found out an awful lot about who friends and family are over the last 2 years. And I guess I'm going to say it selfishly. That's why Bob and Sue have become so important to me. They're vets. Bob was in the 82nd Airborne, just like I was. Bob was a Special Forces operator. He was on an A-team. His son Garrett was a Ranger. These are people that I worked with when I was in the military. And Bob and Sue have been incredibly generous to me. And when I put out the call for help for Dana, they helped her. And every single one of you who watches, every single one of you that sends words of encouragement, every single one of you that says, hey, you're on the right track, keep it up. You have no idea just how important you are to this channel, to the different series that I have going on, whether it be TC and Friends Monday Night Musings, whether it be my Defining a Good Cop, whether it's Navigating the Northwoods. Every single one of you is incredibly important. Whether you give support, you give $1, you give 50, whatever it might be, you are incredibly important. And even more so, sharing the message is important, because if you watch the video that I put out last night, my friend Eric was physically removed from trying to enter the state central committee meeting because he didn't have the right credentials. Just so you know, and this is for Mike Lonergan at the Minnesota GOP State Central Committee. You're a coward. You are an ever-loving coward. You were okay with Eric being there until you realized who he was. And I know for a fact, because here's the deal, Mike, and this is open to you right now. This is open to you and to the chairman. I know for a fact if I'd walked in there, there isn't one of you who don't know who I am. And you would have tried to keep me out of the convention if it hadn't been for Mike Murphy's campaign giving me a war room pass to get in. I know for a fact that if I had been in St. Cloud on Saturday, I wouldn't have got past the front door. Because you're cowards. And so this is my challenge to you. This is my challenge to Chairman Hahn. Come on here and give an explanation for your conduct. Just with Eric alone and your lies. Whoever you had there for security telling Eric, you will be arrested for trespass. You have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know at all what law enforcement has to do to arrest somebody for trespass. And Mike, to you, this idea, well, you're not real press. You don't have credentials. There is no such cotton picking thing as credentials for the press. What you were saying is you're not approved press, Mike, because you won't narrate the story the way we want it narrated. And I saw this over and over and over again with the Minnesota GOP over the last 2 years. You're not all of you, there are some of you out there that are incredibly strong, constitutional originalists, constitutionally minded people who are in positions, who have either been elected into the state house or the state senate, who are strong. I'm thinking of my friend Walter Hudson. I'm thinking of Nathan Wiesenberg. So many of you out there, though, are not of that caliber. You don't deserve to wear the name GOP. You know what? I take that back. I'm tired. We're not calling you guys rhinos anymore, even though I called it the RINO-quo in the description of this video. The rhinos are the GOP now. And the one thing I'm going to ask you guys to think about as you're watching this, as I get ready to bring Pat in, the one thing I'm going to ask you right now, and there are some of you that I know that are watching who have said, we're going to save this. No, you're not. You are not going to save the Minnesota GOP. It needs to metaphorically burn in Minecraft. It is time. And that's why I titled this Losing to Win. Or Winning to Lose. Well, how did I title it? Winning to Lose, excuse me. I don't even remember my own titles anymore. You guys made a decision on Saturday that you never want to win another statewide election. And prior to that, you made a decision that you were never going to do what you needed to do to support a genuine conservative, grassroots, constitutional originalist candidate to win ever again, based on the fact that you ran people against Mark Bashofsky. That you ran in the primary, and then you didn't support him. You're cowards. Every cotton picking one of you. You're cowards. And unlike, and God bless Mr. Parrish, unlike him, when he says, I won't have anything else to do with the Minnesota GOP, but then comes back and runs for chair, I'm done with the Minnesota GOP. Until they can demonstrate that they're willing to get rid of the mainstream GOP candidates, until they're willing to get rid of the mainstream GOP leadership, the state central committee, the executive board, all of them. They've got to go. Because if they don't go, Minnesota conservatives, you are never going to win another election statewide. And here's why. Because you're not interested in winning. Because if you start winning, you can't attack the DFL anymore. The only way that the GOP in Minnesota continues to bring money in is by having the DFL to attack and beat up on. And you could sit there and wring your hands and say, we're trying, but we just don't have the numbers. We can't overturn the governor's decisions because all we have is a slim majority in the Senate. You don't even have a majority in the Senate anymore because you dinked around and found out. And when you had the opportunity to put an actual conservative in the leadership of the Minnesota GOP, you chose a coward and a spineless, panty-waisted, milquetoast wimp and tried to get rid of anybody that had a voice. And this isn't coming from my friend Patrick. This is coming from so many people that witnessed what happened there on Saturday. It's time for the Minnesota GOP to be gutted, and it's time for all of you GOP holdouts who think you're going to save the party. And some of you know who I'm talking to, and I love you to death, and I have a massive amount of respect for you. But it's time for you guys to wake up and realize the Minnesota GOP leadership hates you. They hate you. And for those of you who are mad at me because I put a video out about Trump and the Constitution, I am more on your side than the Minnesota GOP leadership and Donald Trump. You want populists there. You want that populist? I'm the freaking populist. Patrick Dennis is a freaking populist. My friend Paula is a populist. When she saw the video about what happened to Eric on Saturday, she said, I wish I would have known he was there. I would have come out and vouched for him so he could come in. That's a populist. So it's time for all of you holdouts. It's time for all of you stalwarts in the Minnesota GOP who think you can save it, think that you've got what it takes to make a change in your BPOU, and that at your BPOU, if you could just take over your BPOU, you could take over the Minnesota GOP and you can make it what it should be. You're fooling yourselves. It's a delusion. You cannot do this. Now, Patrick's got to follow that rant.
Yeah, that's going to be easy to do, not.
So, hey, we've talked about having you on for other things, but, and as everybody knows, Christine, my co-host of Navigating the Northwoods, has taken a step back from politics. I don't know why, after trying to corral Ashley Klingbeil. I'm surprised that she had any hair left. I love you, Ashley, but you're just a crazy woman. So the last time we had a show, she offered to have you on. She goes, maybe we should have Patrick on, and then yeah, we worked it out, and then here you are, and Christine has just abandoned me. So here you are. So you are in which BPOU?
Cass County.
And that is where, for anybody who might be watching who's not from Cass County, because only people from Cass County knows where Cass County is.
Leech Lake area.
All right. And you have been in the Minnesota GOP for how long?
Actually, not even a year officially.
What
I came in at caucus time.
at caucus time? So you were one of the one of those that groundswell of people who said like it's time to make a change. How did it go for you in your BPOU, Pat?
Actually, you know what? Uh, I really don't have a lot of. I actually, you know what? I have nothing to complain about. Like how they
Awesome.
operate. They are one of the like legitimate. Uh, I got no bones to pick there. You know, we we put money towards great candidates, uh, and a couple of them won. And you know, like you said, and they happen to be like in the same boat as Mark Dashofsky, where they didn't get any of that support, you know, from the party. So and they won on by winning by talking to people, by being the people
So
elected it.
so let's throw their names out there.
That would be like Mike Weiner,
Mhm.
newly elected. I believe what is he? I don't want to misquote it now, but he's new this year, either Minnesota House or Senate. I believe it's the House. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody?
I yep. um so you got involved. You ended up then also at the same time as being involved in at Cass County at the BPOU. You got yourself elected as a delegate to the county convention and to the districts and then into state. And so you have been involved, but you also were for lack of better terminology, you try Christine trying to manage Ashley was probably an easier task than what your campaign management position was, which was trying to corral Travis the Bull Johnson. Um,
Talk about a constant China shop. No, I'm just kidding.
oh no, no, I could. I like Bull's not here to defend himself. As far as I know, he's not watching, so we can talk all sorts of smack about him. So, um, Bull and I are going to fight one of these days.
uh,
Bull fight. Never mind. Um, that's close as I get to dad jokes. Uh, so you managed Bull's campaign while also at the same time maintaining your Minnesota GLP credentials, and were you know I think you were probably ahead of the curve with me by declaring that there would be no red wave in Minnesota, and I mean you heard me say it multiple times leading up to the election, and I got
mhm.
a lot of hate for it from stalwart conservatives, like you're ruining it, and I'm like, how? Okay, wait. First of all, I get told nobody watches me, but then I'm also ruining it. So I don't know how that works, but we all saw it coming, and we can chalk it up to a lot of different things. I honestly want to lay it right at the feet of the Jensen Burke campaign and the Minnesota GOP leadership that they were not interested in winning this election, this midterm general election. They were not interested in winning, and there was immediate outcry from the conservative base, the constitutional originalist types within the party, for new leadership. In fact, I was it Ottertail County that voted a no, did a no confidence vote.
I'm not sure about that.
One of the counties up in your neck of the woods uh, did a no confidence vote for Han, and I'm like, well, that's telling. And then a lot of people started to throw their hats in the ring for the party chairmanship. Mike Murphy being one of them, who ultimately ended up dropping out for family reasons. I guess I haven't heard from Mike since the convention. Um, do you the when you went into the state central committee meeting on Saturday the 3rd, how much hope did you have that you guys were going to make a change that day? Honestly, did you feel like you had the groundswell behind you?
Okay, so actually, first, like I was there as a guest because uh, um, I wasn't elected a delegate or alternate for it for the state central, but I got in as a guest. Uh, Luckily or unfortunately, Eric didn't have the same luck as I did. Uh, but yeah, so where was I?
Being a guest and being at the
Okay,
convention. Or
so
the,
I was, I got in as a guest, and actually, yeah, I mean, overall confidence that something really was gonna change. No, I didn't really see that being much of a. I mean, the hope is in the air, definitely, but that kind of got stomped on pretty quickly. Really, once the gavel went down.
once the meeting came into to order,
Yep.
was called to order. Um, and for those of you that are watching, please like, comment, and share. Let's drive this up in the algorithm. Let's get this share this out on all your social media. I don't care what it is: Gab, Getter, Twitter, Facebook. I have a hard time. Oh no, I lost Pat. He's gone. Um, I don't. Pat must have decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He took a drink and left. Um, Share this out. And if you're interested in coming on and giving an account of anything that happened for you with your BPOU, if you want to give an account of what happened at the state convention, or if you were at the Minnesota, like, was it something I said?
No, I promise it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I was.
Because I really don't care if it was. It's
No, it's
easier than booting you for being you. So, um, never mind.
yeah.
But yeah, if anybody has anything they want to share, I put my email, mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. If you're interested in coming on and want to share for a few minutes about what your experience has been with your BPOU, with your district convention, with yours at the state convention, but especially if you have an experience or observation about what happened at the state central committee, send me an email and I will send you a link to the show so that you can come on and share your views for a few minutes. Um, you don't have to be a pro. I mean, I got Pat here, so
Hmm.
um, so Pat, you had some observations, and I know that that our mutual friends Merle and Carol Hexam had reported that, and I think you witnessed this. Um, Somebody from Otter Tail County actually tried to have Nate Miller expelled from the floor of the Central Committee meeting on, was it Saturday, or even tried to keep him from being able to get in that day. I don't know the full details.
I didn't hear anything specific, and I guess I really wasn't. I was under the now. See what I. Yeah, I didn't hear anything specifically on that on him specifically, but he was in there. He got to stay in there the whole time. I said, got to chat to him for a second. Um, but and I'm not sure if
Everybody
it was.
follow Sarah's advice just because she gave us $2. So, Pat, you don't get any of that. That's all mine. Um,
But no, I I don't know if it was that the point of motion that they were talking. The point of, I don't know if it was point of order or forgive my lack of terminology. I think it was a point of order that somebody made. Um,
Well,
that
I know that there was somebody had made a move to have anybody who either supported a non GOP endorsed candidate in a primary or after the primaries, anybody who ran as a challenger to an endorsed candidate, and yada yada yada. So there's some confusion, and I'd really like for somebody, not that Pat doesn't have, he has notes, but he has specific notes. Um, he was feeding me info all day on Saturday, and I was tweeting out a little bit here and there. But he beat me to it. He was live tweeting. So I'm like, why ask me to do it, Pat? You're like, literally. I'm like, you're doing it yourself, Mr. Social Media Mogul. Um, so if anybody has an experience from the floor that can give us some details, oh, look who's here. Hi, Christine. They made reference to him being there. I don't know who that is, Christine. You're gonna. I wish you could get away and just make a
A little more
final appearance
specific
on the
on that one.
series. I'm gonna cry. She's back. Um,
There's a certain point I thought they were referencing me as well, but just yeah,
somebody get that bearded visitor out of here. I heard he lives on the res. He's got to be dangerous.
what of it? No. Like you said, I was like you said, I was texting you because here in the rules proposal, um, was it number 7, section B, no audio or video recording or electronic transmission, unless given permission by Mr. Hahn, of course, in advance. So
Bite
yeah,
me.
I was a little unsure about pulling out my phone and getting kicked out because they had I don't know how many sergeant of arms walking around snooping on people's phones when they had them out. Um, I
I
don't know.
would have. They. Oh, I wish I would have had the money. Oh, I wish I would have had the money to go.
Like they literally said, "Hey, we're watching you on your phones to make sure you're not doing this." Yeah, I don't know.
Ladies
I,
and
I
gentlemen,
don't
I just
understand the secrecy and for being a party of the people.
we're
Let
supposed to be the party of transparency, right? We're supposed to be the party of integrity, right? What in the world does the Minnesota GOP need to hide? What do you need
that's
to hide, Minnesota GOP? Mike Lonergan, Mr. Executive Committee Chair, what do you need to hide? What in God's green earth do you need to hide? What in God's green earth would you need to lie about having someone arrested for trespass at a building, by the way, that you are not authorized to trespass somebody from? And we will be talking about that. If I can get the independent video, we're going to be talking about just how bad the St. Cloud PD performed in that situation. And if you haven't watched it, go and watch the video and I'll try and snag it, or if somebody wants to snag it and put it in the comment section. If you haven't watched it, to hear what Mike Lonergan did, and then when he brought in his bullies, the sergeants at arms and the subservience there, to force Eric out. What are you hiding and why? Could the fix be in? Could it be in? I don't know. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that it might be. Not saying it is, but it might be. Why are you hiding? Why on earth are you hiding? What are you attempting to do? Why would you choose? You know, Lacey said this from, and you were there, Pat, said this from the platform of the state convention, and Lacey loves to talk more than me. If there's anybody out there who can give me a run for my money, it's Scott Horton and Lacey. Lacey said, here's the problem with the Minnesota GOP. They keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting to have a successful outcome, and it never happens. That's the very definition of insanity. And you know what? You know what they accuse Lacey of? That was racist. What? That was their argument against it.
hmm.
Was that was a racist comment.
I definitely didn't take that as being racist at all. To say
And
it.
Eric is in the chat. Eric, if you're interested and you want to come in and share your thoughts a little bit with Pat and I, please do so. Now, Pat, by the way, Pat has not been brought on as official co-host of the series. We'll see how he does tonight. All right. Um, but so Pat, you did have some concerns about some of the things that you were observing from the floor that day that you particularly have some notes on? What are some of those things that you witnessed that made you think something's going on here?
Okay, so gavel went down, and as I say, this is Saturday, what, 5 days ago now. So I'm going to do my best to recollect as accurately as possible. So yeah, by any means, if anybody remembers anything differently, or don't be afraid to chime in. But one of the first things that they did was uh, there was like a motion to strike, to go over the proposed rules and approve them and whatnot. Um, and they got rid of the what it was it 8 section C out of the rules, which was the deadline to fulfill nominations. Um, by the 30th. And that ended up when, so somebody I forget who it was, made a motion to strike that from the rules. And initially it was a yay and nay is what they did. And very clearly, what I heard and who the people around me heard was the yays won to strike that down versus the nays. And there was a real quick gavel and said, that's to the nays. And he tried to move on real quick. But the room didn't agree with that and made made them address it. And they went to the electronic system at that point. Yeah. So that ended up going and passing 181 to 135. So that struck down. Keep those numbers in mind. This is just an irregular.
Say it one more time.
181 were the yeas and 135 no. Okay. And then, so there was another motion to take nominations from the floor. And that passed 181 to 137. So yeah, and then there was the nominating process, I believe, and that was when, and it ended up being between the nominations from the floor were David Hahn, Philip Parrish, and Tyler Kistner. And Kistner declined because that's he said it's not what he's trying to do, but appreciates it, but thank you, I respectfully decline, everything good there. So that ended up going to a vote of to where Han won 201, and actually I think I sent you a graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Which I took a picture because I noticed in the rules and the wording here that it didn't say anything about photographs, so I figured I was safe.
Yeah, it's boy.
But anyways,
Yeah, so the initial vote, I think the first vote that you showed for Hahn and Parrish, it was 201 to 118.
Yep. So that's what that came out to. Actually, I should back up a little bit. I hit the fast forward button. Before we got to any of that, well, or should I just finish with what
No,
we ended up
you
with?
this is free for this is all like stream of consciousness.
Okay.
So you go for it.
So before that, and to touch back on what you were saying about somebody from Ottertail, perhaps uh, I don't know. Maybe I missed that part. I don't know. Was that after gavel when that was addressed?
I don't know for sure. I know that there are somebody from Otter Tail County watching who shared that they did try to have Nathan Miller removed. Um, and
Now,
if
see,
you guys
well, go ahead.
go ahead, no, go ahead, Pat.
You see, I wonder if now see what I was going to talk about was, and I believe, I mean, maybe it could have been somebody from Otter Tail, but it might have been Kitson. Ooh, it might have been Kitson County because they weren't recognized. Kitson County wasn't recognized. Um, sorry, that one just popped back in my head because that was like a point of order. Or a big discussion there was Kitson County apparently something with their BPOU or something. It was I don't know.
They were disbanded. Han
That
ordered them disbanded, and I believe it was is it Amanda Hughes that was the chair of the Kitson County, and they disbanded them over a technicality that was actually invalid per the GOP rules and state bylaws and statutes as far as reporting of earnings and holdings and whatnot in bank accounts, and they didn't have any money. I mean, if anybody knows about anything about Kitson County, it's not like we're talking at Olmsted County, Hennepin County, Ramsey County. That's we're not talking the three major. Kitson County is not a major county, and they just didn't have a lot of money in their coffers, and so somebody made a complaint. They found out, investigated that they didn't violate any policy, any rules, any laws, any bylaws, any statutes, any codes, anything like that. They didn't violate anything in the Constitution. Uh, and they still disbanded the party and took it away from the county. Took it away from the county. And here's why: because Amanda dared to challenge the RINO-quo. From this point forward, anytime we talk about the Minnesota GOP and them continuing to do things, we refer to it as RINO-quo. Even though I don't believe we should be referring to the GOP as rhinos anymore, because quite frankly, I'm just going to throw this out there. For about 98% of you, if you stay in the Minnesota GOP, you are the very rhinos that you hate. So because you just keep supporting them, got to vote for somebody. Just can't vote for Tim Walz. We got to vote for the person that can win. How'd that work out for you? But anyway, um, so yeah, so correct on Kitson, yeah. Um,
so yeah,
Christine said that someone said on mic that there were agitators among them, but I don't know if it was a motion or anything official. So I mean, they were literally, I mean, just per Christine's statement right here, they were literally drumming up a narrative that there were people there that the whole reason for being there was to cause a problem. And I would agree with that. Um,
definitely.
I would
Definitely.
agree. There were people there that were there to do nothing but cause problems, to be agitators. None of them were the rocks and cows. None of them were the constitutional originalists. The people there that were agitators were David Hahn, Mike Lonergan, Michelle Benson, Kendall No Balls Qualls. Um, everybody's he's a veteran. I'm like, I don't care. He's a coward. Um, and I'd tell that to his face based on his performance at the convention and in other
He'd
places.
probably just stare at you blankly and walk away. I mean, I confronted him down at the convention, but about you know what. So
So, yeah,
the
I'm a little
infamous
fired up
text.
tonight. It has. I've been thinking about this since Saturday. I'm just livid. Um, uh, did you have a feeling as an observer, as an independent, neutral, no vote, any of that? Did you get the feeling? And I hate to be strictly based on feelings, but a lot of this is going to be subjective. Did you have the feeling as you watched, as you observed, that they had an agenda and they knew what they wanted and they were angling towards that? And do you think that was what the move was, to keep nominations from the floor happening, to keep certain people out? Like, why would they eject Nate Miller? I mean, like, is that one vote? Is that one vote going to make a difference? Like, Nate Miller's one vote is going to be that swing.
Oh, they were going after a lot more than one vote. No, no. All right, so let me get into this. So I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it was somebody from Kitson County, although that made a point of order that, and gonna try to. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm gonna try to get it as accurately as possible. But they made a point of order that they felt that that whoever ran a third party, or whoever was involved in a third party, that they should be immediately removed from the site on Saturday. Um, and I mean, obviously that didn't go anywhere, but there would have been a good chunk of that room that left, so it wasn't just Nathan, so it wouldn't have been just him.
Whatever are you saying? Well, no, but let's think
What?
about this for just a minute. Um, that would have eliminated you, even though you were there as a guest. Nathan Miller did not run as a third party. He ran independent as a Republican, which he's entitled to do. The minute Christine and I talked about this on one of our previous episodes, the Minnesota GOP, the national GOP, doesn't own the phrase Republican. They don't have a copyright on that. They don't have a intellectual property right to that. And if Nathan Miller is stating, I'm running as an independent with principles that are aligned with the foundation of the GOP, he's entitled to do that. He's entitled to say, I'm running as a Republican, without saying he's endorsed. And Pat, you and I have talked about this in the past. The same people who were pissing and moaning on Saturday, Nate Miller, I guess Merle Hexham is saying that Nate was only there as a guest. So I mean, even the fact that they would even mention him at all, if they did mention him.
They never mentioned anybody by name.
Well, Christina's saying they did refer to Nate.
No, I did not hear them say Nate.
Well,
they said third part. I don't know. Was she there?
I don't. Look,
Because they did not say
no
Nate.
offense. I'm gonna challenge this one and say, when Christine says something, I'm gonna go with her 98.9% of the time, because she's corrected me on a few things. So
and maybe it did, and I missed it, but I don't recall that. I'm just, like I said, anyways, from my point of view,
yeah,
so
no, absolutely.
like I don't
we have to
recall
have a
them
little. We have to have a little disagreement at some point. Otherwise, there's nothing to. Like, it's just us sitting around in an echo chamber.
I actually thought they were intentionally vague,
which is also problematic. Then you might as well, because they're, I hate that term, problematic, but when you look at how they handled, Christine's saying they didn't specifically mention him, but it's apparently very clear that's who they were talking about.
Oh, there was other people in the room that you could. There was other people in the room that definitely, like me, was definitely involved with third party. Yeah, I'm not going to drop names, but there would have been a good 15, 20 people that would have been escorted out of that room, I'm guessing.
I would have liked to watch them try.
Yeah, touch me, I dare you. But
I like Eric. He's so nice and gentle that that he handled that differently than TC would have.
Oh, definitely different than I would have. like
I would have pulled out some Mayo Doctor level stuff. Do you know who I am?
Mayo Doctor.
I work and live in the Rochester area, which is pretty much just Mayo Chester. people do that all. Do you know who I am? Do you know where I work? I'm like, let me guess. You're a doctor at Mayo. One of 4 billion. Literally, I don't care. Um, Christine says they were probably referring to all of you, to all you troublemakers.
I hope so.
But let's just think about the fact that they did make a reference to these third party people. Let's just talk about that for a minute. Then was Kurt Dowd removed from the floor? Was he there? Was Kurt Dowd there? Does anybody know? Was
If he
Mike? I'm
was,
wondering. Mike or Chairman Hahn, could you tell me, was Kurt Dowd there? I'm wondering, and because I think, and Pat and I, we've talked about this. I'm wondering if maybe, just maybe, Kurt Dowd was there. And here's why I'm wondering, because Kurt Dowd ran people against Mark Bishofsky, the endorsed candidate, an 82% endorsement, and they ran somebody in the primaries. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that at the convention, they stood up there on the stage of that convention and said, we have to support our endorsed candidates. So was Kurt Dowd removed? If he was there, was he removed? Because he ran candidates in the primary against endorsed candidates. And they didn't want to fund Stephen Lowell, who was the only person who had the temerity and the testicular fortitude to step up and run for a Senate seat in a predominantly blue Senate district. And he stepped up and did it. And he did it on his own. How about Mortensen? And I have some critiques of Mortensen. I do. I like Eric, but I have some critiques of him. Just like people like to critique me. I'm okay with that. But at least Eric stood on his principles and his ethics. How did you do with him, Minnesota GOP? Did you support Eric? No, pretty sure you ran somebody against him too. And damn sure didn't support him. How many times is that now that they haven't supported Eric Mortensen? And where did that get you? Lost seats in the House, and you lost the freaking Senate. Oh, but we did get the governorship. No, wait, we didn't get that. Oh, we got the attorney general. No, we didn't get that. We got the secretary. No, we didn't get that. Oh, we got the state auditor. Oh, we didn't get that.
No.
What else could we? Oh, wait, we didn't get a damn thing. Tell me what the conservatives got in Minnesota. Tell me what we got besides a stick up the butt. And you want to run people out of the state central committee meeting because they might have been third-party supporters.
Yeah. But you know who was there? His lapdog was there. Josh Heinzman, he was there. I know
Which
that.
one? Which person's lapdog?
Kurt Dots. Heinz, you know, the guy that, you know, went over to Mort's house. That guy.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't seen that, by the way, that is some very interesting, as Heinzman showed up and was trying to convince Eric Mortensen's wife why he shouldn't vote for Eric Mortensen. And then Eric showed up, which, by the way, freaking hilarious.
And then he took Till to his car. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but no, I do give him credit because, you know, he did come up to me and ask him why I was calling him a lapdog.
He did.
But
He asked you that on Saturday?
he came up to me. What's your problem? Yeah.
Well, you're a freaking coward.
That's what I told him. I said, you came at me on my stuff. So, and no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And then I pulled out the pictures on him. And then he goes, oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, I know you know who the hell I am. But anyways.
So anybody, like, if you guys really are interested in seeing fireworks, I would like to announce now that TC is willing to accept donations for gas and travel to any Minnesota GOP event, just for the video footage. That's alone of when I walk in. It would be gold
for you.
Would be gold. You know, like I joked for a long time, and you've heard me joke about this. Minnesota is the gift that keeps on giving for my channel. I mean, honestly, but The Minnesota GOP is like a gift within the gift. Like literally, I like they just give like I don't even have to talk about the DFL anymore.
They're
They
nesting all of gifts.
nesting gifts, yeah. Um, they're not interested in winning, and I said this in the open. And Pat, I'd like to, because you were like amening me in the background, and like throwing hands up in the air. I couldn't tell if you were like you want to throw paws.
I was about to
I
fall off the couch laughing.
um, do you see the GOP as anything other than wanting to maintain the status quo with their sycophantic approach and their nepotism and their popularity contest? I believe, and I assert this again, that they want to keep saying they represent the common guy,
Hmm.
but they want to keep losing so that they can keep grifting their donator base, their donation base, their supporter base. Because they can go out to the little old ladies and little old men and the couples and the people who have, strong Christian values and so on and so forth and say, look, we represent you. The DFL doesn't. You got to keep giving us your money. Well, then they lose and they say you got to give us more money, because if you give us more money, we'll just have enough money to compete with the DFL. And so that's this grift, this Ponzi scheme, like FTX, at a Minnesota level. This is FTX at a Minnesota level. The Minnesota GOP is FTX. Telling you, yeah, it's a sure thing. We're here. We're on your side, while they're then turning around and spending all that money to defeat every damn thing that you want to believe in, that you say you believe in. That's what it is, because they want your money. They want your money so that they can keep saying we're supporting you to fight the DFL. You have to fight the DFL. No, I got news for you. The problem is not the DFL. It's conviction on the part of conservatives. And so a while ago, when I had Walter Hudson on to talk about his run for House, I had used a phrase that I coined, normicons. They're counting on you normicons to think you don't have anywhere else to go. And I mentioned this to Eric last night when I was on the phone with him as we were talking about me putting this video out. I just like one more chance. Let's talk about this one more time. You're okay with me putting this out there? The GOP's got to get gutted. It's got to get gutted. Or they have to lose every election going forward for people to finally say enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I think you saw that on the floor of the State Central Committee on Saturday. Does it look to you like the Minnesota GOP is interested in changing anything?
No, not in the slightest. Like I said, like how it all started with the real quick gavel down. That was nays. Whoa, I mean, anyway.
No,
Yeah, no,
say it. So, no, say whatever's on your mind.
it was, like that room got loud. I mean, it by no means was a full packed auditorium, but I mean, it got loud like it was real quick, because that was a blatant kick in the nuts. I don't know. I don't know what to call it. Um,
Sarah
yeah,
says that my use of the term testicular fortitude is very important.
I like it.
She says you got this. I don't know who she's talking about. Me? I don't.
So
Christine has said, a good old. I've never seen a good old boys club anywhere until I got involved with the Minnesota GOP.
definitely. No, definitely. And like that video with Eric, very plain to see. Oh, we're private. We're private. We're private. Really? Party of the people? Like why are you so private? I mean, it seems a little hypocritical, and you know what? That word was thrown around by a lot of people I didn't expect to hear it from. I that
J-
day.
oh, okay. Pat, one of the rules is you can't make a mention of something vague without also backing it up. So here it is. I'm a
What
name
else?
dropping channel. Name names. Party of the people. From
No,
people you.
nobody, like, I'm just like from other guests like that. I didn't necessarily know names, but like just people I didn't know. Even like I could. It was quiet enough in the back to where you could hear side conversations if you really wanted to, and that was definitely going on. And well, and for obvious reasons of people weren't happy with what they were watching happen in front of them.
But we
Uh,
had the same reaction, and I'm going to throw this out here. We had the exact same reaction at the state convention. I walked out of that state convention, and I knew then. You and I talked about it afterwards. Um, I think we missed each other that at the convention. I don't think we actually connected at the convention.
no.
Yeah, but we did talk about it afterwards. I remember talking to you about it afterwards. I don't know how
Yeah,
much.
I was there very early in the morning at the convention, running around with the Murphy clan. So
Um, I walked out of that convention saying that there's no way. And people are there again. They're mad at me. I said Jensen's not going to win this. Jensen will not win this because I do not believe they were interested in winning it. But I also said something else. They're only interested in maintaining the power they have at the state party level. They did not want to win. And I heard that from repeated people. I mean, it was the first time that I met Merle and Carol face to face, and I could see it in their faces. I saw it in the faces of a ton of other people. I
oh,
saw
Carol,
hope.
Carol was a rock star down there.
Hmm?
Yeah,
When is Carol not a rock star? Let's just be
yeah. Good,
honest. So,
good question.
Merle, I love you to death, bro, but your wife is the star shine.
And I don't,
And
I don't even think I've actually met them face to face. We've just had, online
right, but
interactions.
they're rock stars. But and I had them on. I had Merle on. We've had Carol and Merle on. But I walked away and I had conversations with literally probably 100 or so people about what they witnessed, and I had a couple of men on the street interviews, and one of them was with a person who had never been involved in the political game at all, who got involved because they were tired of what was happening in the direction that the state was going and that the federal level was going, and they wanted to make a difference. And I bumped into another person that I didn't get on video prior to going into the convention, who walked away going, there's no hope. There's no hope. And that was sealed for me on Saturday, watching you and others report. If you have a military commander, and by the way, sometimes I use military lingo with Pat, and he goes, "I feel like you're talking to me like I was in the military,
I wasn't. I'm
and I
not.
wasn't." And and
Please
then I
talk.
then I enlisted him in the Minnesota Black Robe Regiment Army, which, by the way, doesn't exist for the FBI and the CIA, as you're watching, and especially the ACLU. Please put me on your hate list. I mean your uh, terrorist list.
No, don't, please. No,
Don't put me on your ACLU list. Don't do that. Um,
totally don't want that to happen.
don't want that to happen. Yeah, but we we watch these things happen, and it just becomes abundantly clear that they're not interested in winning. They're not interested in changing. They want to maintain, and they'll do everything in their power to maintain that. And that includes trying to get, you go to the convention, look at how they handled Murphy with these self-identifying pamphlets that were being handed out. And they belittled him and mocked him from the stage. Who's that fat, worthless, toad-looking sergeant at arms? I cannot remember his name right now.
I don't know, but he was
Bob
about his head
something.
was about to explode the entire.
Bob, like that Jabba the Hutt reject. Um,
Yeah, Pizza the Hut. Oh,
mocked a gubernatorial candidate from the stage, mocked it, and then said, as he crumpled it up, if you find any of these, crumple them up and throw them on the floor.
yeah,
Until a Murphy supporter pointed out that Kim Crockett had signs up that didn't have the declaration on them. And then he mocked Murphy for that too.
Which exactly what kind of I was wanted to lean into is it's blatantly obvious that if you don't toe their line, they could care less about you and try to stamp you out as like you said, like I said, here, let anybody that isn't towing our line, let's kick them out of here. That's what that translated into. I mean, that's how I heard it. If you're not going to toe our line, we don't want you here. And I think a lot of people heard that loud and clear. Um,
No, go ahead. You got a
no,
thought?
no, because like you said, it was a lot of things were, I believe, solidified for a lot of people Saturday afternoon because I mean, real quick, once they got their election done and everybody got back in. Actually, no, everybody did not get back in. There's a new secretary, but I I know nothing. I know nothing about her. To whatever. I didn't even, apparently. So let me get back into this, if that's all right with the rest of how it went. So Han won again.
What?
So like I said earlier, um, and then Donna Bergstrom was reelected as the vice. And then Secretary Jenna Dix won. Uh, Whoever that is. I don't know. Maybe somebody watching can chime in on that. I don't know. I did.
I don't know
So
anything. I don't know anything about the secretary, and at the and let's just be upfront. The chairman of the party runs things,
yeah.
and then
Oh,
the House minority leader runs the House in this case now for the GOP, and the Senate minority leader for the GOP because they managed to lose the Senate too. Um, they all kind of work together, and then the executive committee is kind of there to step in when you have a Jennifer Carnahan situation. And I'll be honest, Dave looks great compared to Jen Carnahan. Like the Wicked Witch of Minnesota, I like she's ding dong, the witch is dead, and I'm glad. We should all be glad that she's out of Minnesota politics. But rumor has it, did she attempt to try and come back for this? Somebody said she was attempting to try and come back for this.
that's what the rumor was. And then that morning, I seen an article about her wanting to sue the GOP. So I don't know. I don't know. That's mixed messaging going on. Because yeah, there was a rumor that she was coming back and gonna try to run for chair. And then that news story, or I don't know if it was Alpha News or whatever. I don't know. But I seen it online that there was a story about her. She's trying to sue the GOP for emotional damages or something.
Can I sue her for all the emotional damage she caused? Seriously, I better be careful. I end up getting sued too.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't. Let's not get sued by her, by anybody. I'd prefer not to.
but so let's so like our mutual friend, and by the way, Sue's watching, and I'm pretty sure Bob's probably going to watch at some point. Um,
That's yes, Sue.
the
Yes,
Stockholm syndrome is huge amongst those. Huge, it's huge. I tell you, it's huge. It's the hugest. It's the hugest
huge.
Stockholm syndrome. It's the hugest Stockholm syndrome ever. It's the greatest Stockholm syndrome. It is the best. It is the best Stockholm syndrome that's ever been a Stockholm syndrome. There has never been a better Stockholm syndrome ever until me. I am the best Stockholm syndrome ever. I don't know, and it's a horrible impersonation, but I know you all get it. Sue, I just want you to know that there are hundreds of people right now paying attention to you and Bob and Garrett and your family. Um, Tell that ranger to get his ass out of bed and get better. because this old paratrooper will come and drag him to his health. Sarah said she agrees with Christine. Says it was interesting to see as the Minnesota GOP so welcomed me at first. And if you guys are listening and you can't see, Sarah is not your quintessential lily white Minnesotan. She might be, I think, is the appropriate term now, Latinx. I, Sarah, what am I supposed to call you? I don't know.
Color Sarah.
Okay, Sarah. Yeah. So Sarah is, and this is the thing too, is that like she said here, they welcome me at first. At first, right? Because they love to bring in people they call minorities. They want to show, look, we're winning these minorities. We're winning them over. Well, the Latin American community, by and large, has very strong traditional values, and in the Minnesota GOP, the GOP at any level should really be a good fit for them. Really should be. But that phrase "at first" is very important. And Christine went on. I'm really bad about this. I shouldn't be reading comments unless you're super chatted. That's what all the important channels do. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly,
Professor.
Sarah. They make you feel like the belle of the ball until you have opinions and ideas. And that's it right there. That's it right there. They are the Minnesota GOP, the GOP in general is no different than the Democrats at all. If you step off, excuse the terminology, if you step off the reservation, you get rejected. And if anybody if you want to understand the phrase step off the reservation, ask a native who steps away from the reservation how they're treated. They are isolated, they're rejected, they're made to feel like less than. I mean, literally, I have friends raised on reservations in Montana, walked away, and they got told, "You're white." And this is exactly how the Minnesota DFL or the Democrat Party in general and the GOP in general. Once you step off the reservation, they treat you like you are an other who's unworthy of any kind of respect. Your whole duty, in the eyes of the Minnesota GOP especially, is to toe the line that they tell you to toe.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's true amongst traditionalists. Definitely.
I don't even know what I'm doing here on the screen right now.
Is your hand having a stroke?
Yes, my hand is having a stroke. Uh, tech, we have Greg Wayne says, "Yep, they are excited until you show you have your own thoughts and don't agree with them on all things."
Yeah.
Precisely. And then Sarah clarifies, Texican works. The feds have me check the Hispanic box. This is why I love Sarah. And she promised, and she bought a beanie. Um, she bought a beanie and a bag of coffee. That's a challenge, Pat. But
I took that personal. Yeah, definitely.
so
I knew a shot was coming.
knew there was a shot coming somewhere.
I could hear you loading that one in.
That was um, that one went across the bow though. The next one's no more warning shots. As you watch and looking back, hindsight being what it is, you've been tracking this for a while. Obviously, you've been paying attention through the whole coof pandemic thing and whatnot. As you watch, have you seen a strengthening of the conservative base in the Minnesota GOP, or are you seeing a doubling down of status quo neocon type principles within the Minnesota GOP? And what made you get involved in the first place, as far as with the GOP, as opposed to like the Libertarian or the Constitutional Party?
Okay, run that back. Run that first past me again here, so I can go in order.
Have you? Okay, so let's start with this. What made you choose to get involved with the GOP? And have you seen that the the GOP is changing, or is it doubling down on its kind of status quo positions?
Well,
And
maybe
what do you think the future is?
okay, so I think like with the same for a lot of people that decided to get involved for the first time this year, it was the fact that you from what we're seeing, like we're just not liking what we're seeing and seeing the direction. You know what I mean? Like somebody has to step up to say something. We've got to try. We've got to try to get involved. Um, which there was a result like there was a lot of like the first like for example, there was over 200 people at my first BPOU meeting when we were trying to elect delegates and alternates, which I ultimately got in as an alternate. And then I was seated down there at the state convention. Um, and there was about 40 some people, maybe more. I think between 40 and 50 people that was trying to be one of the, I think, 14, 17, 14, or however many delegates that Cass County has. I should know this number. but there was, you know, a lot of people, and when it came down to, and I don't know, I gave my spiel about what I've been doing on my own for, just for trying to have a voice, you know what I mean? Like my online stuff. Um,
I understand what you're saying.
I'm not going to self plug here, but not going to do that. But
Um, Go ahead.
okay, like I was doing my the people in society talking uh, since right, for a whole another year before that. For but anyways, so like that's what started all of this was the pissed, PIST, the
Hmm.
acronym there. So I'm not trying to have vulgar language. It's just an acronym.
I
Um,
swear on my own show sometimes. It's all right.
all right. I'm not trying to get
They're just words.
get banned. So
I
um,
normally just tell people to get bent. So yeah. So anyway,
so so yeah so through I got into that, and I don't know, like
was
Sarah
your
said,
hope though? Was your
it's
hope
been
was
a
that the
better
GOP represented your values? Because you clearly have a certain set
out.
of values that you would consider to be constitutional originalist level values. Maybe not normicon values, but you definitely have a
Okay,
a more classical libertarian paleo conservative type view, and you were thinking to yourself, I'm going to get involved with the Minnesota GOP because it represents me most closely as far as any party that has a chance of winning. Is that what was going on in your head? Is that we can make a difference through the GOP?
and where can I maybe have more potential to be heard and have a voice, and who would give me more of an opportunity, to be heard, which I think, goes in everybody's qualifications. But yeah, you threw me off there.
I do that a lot. That's what I'm good for.
Yeah. uh, where was I in the story there? So yeah, no, you threw me off there.
Well, but honestly, was your hope in that they were going to represent you and that you could have an impact on that process in the same way that
Yes.
so many other people were coming into the party in the last year to 2 years were thinking we can make a difference because now there's an opening, there's an opportunity. And is that why you got involved?
Yeah, because yeah, there's exactly, because maybe I could, get in there and actually, do something or have that vote to maybe sway something, to where we can actually get something accomplished. But very clear, I mean, that's become obvious that
You
that's not
you knew
why.
there wasn't a shot in
Yeah.
hell that you were getting into the DFL to make a change.
No,
I mean,
no,
Antifa
no.
Antifa's not even trying to change the DFL. They're like, not a change. No, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Well, and I've up until last year, I've never identified one way or the other. I just haven't. Like, I've never been, part of a political party or anything. So I mean, I was, would have considered myself independent, and I'm going to vote for who I researched on and think will maybe actually do, like, I never really took to that, oh, lesser of two evils. Or you can leave that box blank. You know what I mean? So, a no vote is also a vote.
Chad was saying I was hoping for something different in this platform. I'm assuming he's talking about the GOP, but it basically is another vote harder platform when honestly um you don't even know what you're voting for. No offense, just dig deeper. Right, which is exactly,
So,
so well, no, Chad doesn't. So Chad wants to come on. We'll give him an opportunity. Um, uh, and Sarah and Christina both said that's exactly why they got involved. The same thing that you're saying is that, like, I thought this was a place where I could have an impact, and then you get into it, and then you realize I can't have an impact.
no,
I
no,
don't.
see back up there, because like I said, at my first convention or my first meeting, there was over 200 people there. And then, and this is where it kind of really got sad because the next meeting, maybe 15 people. You know what I mean? Like it severely dropped because right there, everybody felt like, oh, nobody cares. A lot of the a lot of the old, guard, the old good old boys got back in, and it's, like at State Central, that's what we've seen. It was a good old boys club. How do we protect each other? And quite honestly, when I seen what did you call him? No balls qualls.
No balls,
Uh,
walls. Yeah.
when I seen
Well,
him
everybody
walk,
likes to call walls no balls walls, and I just think walls is the same thing. So.
well, when I seen that Qualls was in the room, I went, "Oh, that's how this is gonna go." Like I
Well, the
knew
fix was
right
in.
there.
The fix was in. When you see
Yeah,
Qualls and
exactly.
Michelle Benson up there, you know the fix is in. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, the only thing they were missing,
blatantly not even trying to like hide it. It was, here you go, right in your face. Um,
was Liz Cheney of Minnesota. I mean, Michelle Fishbach.
I don't know where Fish Block was the other day, but just saying.
Fishblock. You're spilling Mountain Dew all over yourself. Have you been drinking? Have you?
Just the sweet nectar right here.
So
Ah,
so so bad. This is why we can't have nice things.
we can't.
Um. Oh, so we're gonna give.
So what else? What else did I want to? I mean, I think that pretty much. Hmm. I mean, unless I'm forgetting something, which I'm probably sure I am.
Chad, if you can hear us, turn your camera on or put something up so that like an avatar or something. Chad, Chad, if you can hear us, turn your camera Chad, on. Put something. You're gonna have to turn like an avatar or something. Mute the Chad. Mute the video playing in the background. Chad, if you can hear us, turn your camera Chad, on. Mute the.
And let me just continue a little bit. There is,
Let's see if he
I
comes in here. But go ahead.
I was actually,
Can you hear me?
one
Yeah,
of
Chad.
yeah,
Go ahead. Let's. I know that you have a broad.
Give me a minute.
Yeah.
In one package, and they're going to go at it again. And you've got one of these health ministers over there.
He's listening to 18 things in the background. Chad, you got to mute it all.
Let
What do you
log me out? I got another video going.
Chad, you got to mute it all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Boy, this is a professional production, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great call-in show. This is what happens when you don't have a showrunner.
we got this handled. It's okay.
So Chad, just message us when you get it figured out there in the background. What do you see as being the future for the GOP after what you saw on Saturday?
Future?
That's what I
future?
asked. So
what future? Like,
okay, don't be coy.
like. I mean, like the title says, they're winning to lose. That was their mission of the day, was not to change a damn thing. Because clearly what they've been doing for so long is working. But let's double down, triple down, quadruple down. Is that a thing? But yeah, that's what it was.
Well, for these yahoos, it is.
Yeah. So, expect more L's than W's in the column, is what I would say. And the Democrats know that they don't have to take them seriously because they're not going to win. Because, well, here's another reason, like you say and have said, for some reason they're afraid to go into the blue dot. Oh, something about the metro is scary. No. Go. It doesn't seem like they have a plan to do anything different. So I wouldn't expect anything different.
Well, so let's talk about that for just a minute. I have some frustrations, and I don't, and if I could get a hold of Mike Murphy, I would. I got nuked on Facebook, so I lost ability to talk to a lot of people because I was doing most of my communication with a lot of people through Facebook. But the thing that I want to give Murphy credit for is that he went in and he revitalized a base in the Twin Cities, and he did something that no one else had ever managed to do, which was to get the National Hmong Association endorsement. And people need to understand this. When the Hmong came to the United States, they came here as a voting bloc that has predominantly gone left ever since they got brought in here during the Vietnam War. And they had continued to maintain that. And Mike Murphy stepped into a void that the GOP, but especially the Minnesota GOP, because we have an incredibly large Hmong population base here in the state of Minnesota. And he did something that no one else had ever done by pulling in that endorsement. And he was working the inner city, much like Dennis Smith was working the inner city. And Dennis Smith and Mike Murphy were both pulling people in from the inner city who were saying, we're looking for an out from voting for the DFL. That's what they did. And the Minnesota GOP's response was to resoundingly defeat Mike Murphy, put two of the most lily white people you could ever get. Like, I have a man on the street interview with Matt Burke, and people are like, that's Matt Burke. Do you know who you were talking to? I'm like, yeah, it's Matt Burke. Do you know who he is? And I'm like, yeah, it's Matt Burke. Yeah, but do you know who he is? I'm like, yeah, that's Matt Burke. He played for the Vikings. I'm like, I don't give a damn. He's running for office now. So he's supposed to be a man for the people. Lily, the most lily white person I've ever met in my life, next to Scott Jensen, the most lily white person other than Matt Burke. Who's Mike Murphy choose for his running mate? Literally Lacey Johnson. who is from the inner city of Minneapolis.
Yeah. And we wonder why we lost.
And we wonder why we lost. And
I mean,
what did the
we don't wonder.
what was Minnesota GOP's outreach to the inner city? There was none. But they opened a conservative Somali embassy, basically, in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area for conservative Somalis. That was it. And that was supposed to cover an entire voting block. That was supposed to cover all the inner city. It was supposed to cover all black folks, African American, whatever they choose to label that particular segment of as. They did nothing to reach into the poor inner city Hispanic communities, which would have gone to the GOP with the right appeal, which is, we understand your values and we understand your traditions and we want to help you preserve that. They could have done the same thing. Brian Warfield was out there fighting for this on the streets of inner city Minneapolis, running a risk every time he went out as a conservative black man trying to promote the conservative values that are supposed to be GOP values. And they completely abandoned that base. Completely abandoned them. They did not want to win because they made no effort in Minneapolis. They made no effort in St. Paul. They made no effort in Rochester. They made no effort in St. Cloud. They made no effort in Duluth. They made no effort in Mankato. None. And I got news for you, people. As you're watching this, if you stay in the GOP, you're going to lose. So the question that I know that Dennis is going to, I keep saying your last name, Pat would ask, and that I would ask, and that so many other people would ask, why stay? Why stay in that? Because I have a funny feeling that Pat's not going to stay in that anymore.
Well, how can you say you have any integrity whatsoever and stay and back that up? I don't think that can be done.
So you're saying that you're going to go vote for the DFL then?
No, hell no.
Let's see if Chad's.
I can reach through here. No.
Let's see if Chad, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
We could hear you and everything else happening in the world when you were on.
Okay, I'm sorry about earlier. I haven't done this before.
No, that's fine. So, Chad, I don't control people's speech. I know that you have a massive amount of thoughts and ideas, but if we could focus your questions on the GOP and where they went wrong, and your thoughts on what could be different, in particular for conservatives, what are their options?
I guess my thoughts go back to what you're actually dealing with. What is the GOP?
A group of losers right now, but anyway.
Yeah, but you go from you're dealing with corporate entities instead of organic government. And that's what people have to look at. And in my comments,
corporatocracy.
Yeah, but you look at the state of Minnesota, the Constitution requires it to be a lowercase s state of Minnesota. But if you go to Dun and Bradstreet, state of Minnesota is a capital S state, and it's located in St. Paul. That's the corporate entity. And these governments, and actually in that Dun and Bradstreet report, you're going to find Tim Walz is the chief executive officer. And there's a big difference between organic government and corporate entities.
No debate there at all. I wouldn't argue that corporatocracy and whatnot has been a problem, and that some of the biggest crony capitalists out there are not just left wingers, but also the GOP. And the uniparty loves to reward capital. But what are your thoughts about, without dealing with that particular issue, not because I don't like the conversation, but because I think it's a definitely a conversation that could be had on a deeper, um, on a different stream where we could have time to delve into your thoughts on that. What would you say is is an option for the conservative voter right now if the Minnesota GOP is apparently more interested in maintaining the status, that corporatocracy, that status quo, or the RINO-quo? Are there options out there for people at the state level, or should they be focusing, do you think, Chad, now as running as independents and taking over local seats like city councils, mayoral positions, county commissions? Do you think that gives people hope?
I honestly don't, because it goes back to what the system is set up as. And all of these are municipal corporations. Look at who owns Goodyear County GIS map and see who owns the courthouse. And I know what you just said, and I understand your point, but it goes back to its law. Corporations operate under contract law, where we're all thinking of things as constitutional rights and all that. So what has to happen? You have these government officials, and they're wearing two hats. They're wearing a government official hat, and they're also wearing a corporate hat. They always go to the corporate. And what needs to happen there? They need to be bound to their oath under the government end of it, not the corporate end of it. And I hope that just says something to some people. I don't want to take up a bunch of time, but there's a huge difference between corporate law and governmental entities. And the GOP is under either a private member association or a corporate entity.
Yeah, and there again, they are incorporated. I have no dispute with that at all. Which is one of the reasons why in Chad, you've heard enough of my content for me to, or for you to understand that my position is that the uniparty is the most dangerous because of a lot of what you're saying. Which is they're very much more interested in that corporate level, if you will, that corporate style of ruling, and that's where they have turned states into basically companies, into uh, corporations that have to have a CEO and a CFO and a COO and all of those things. Do you think that what's taken place in the Minnesota GOP, and this directed at you, Chad, um, do you think that what has taken place in the Minnesota GOP over the last several months, but over the last year and a half to 2 years, is going to be enough to wake people up to start looking at options at a local level or uh, in a third party sense, even if it means they don't necessarily win an election? Or do you think that there's no hope for Minnesota at this point?
I guess, I don't follow it a lot. I've removed my voter record because basically it goes back to that corporate end of it. And, then you're asking for benefits. And, who gets the benefit bears the burden. That's a maxim of law. That binds you to their corporate end of it. So I don't see a lot of hope unless people wake up to seeing the separation between the corporate end and the governmental end. And you can go to your county. I live in Marshall County, Minnesota, but you can go to state statute, and that requires if you sue your county, you sue the county of Marshall or whatever county you're in. That's because there's two separate things. You don't sue an organic government county. You sue the officials that operated outside of their capacity. If you're suing the county as a corporate entity, then you go after the whole where they have the limited liability. And I have actually
Qualified immunity, basically.
Yeah, I've dealt with this with my county and the auditor treasurer which
you just talked Pat right out of the room.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm getting at, and I'm not trying to override your show here.
Oh, trust me, you can't.
People have to look at that separation. They think they're the same thing, but they're completely different. And it's allowed by the United States Constitution for admiralty contract law as compared to what the government is bound to in upholding your rights. So you can step outside of that because you have the right to unlimited contracting. And that's what you do when you go into these corporate entities. You contract.
What do you see yourself doing politically?
I honestly, I just try to avoid it. We all
Okay,
have
but I'm not. I'm going to push on you a little bit here. I get that. I understand, but you brought up corporate law. You brought up maritime law. We've talked about the Constitution, but we're talking specifically about political parties here. We're talking about the Minnesota GOP. We're talking about the Minnesota DFL. We can even talk about this at the federal state level. But outside of just abandoning it and becoming, a recluse, if you would, which doesn't fix anything, what's a guy like Chad or somebody else do when they're looking at a system that is corrupt and corrupted by the uniparty? Because what do we know? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're seeing this play out. How does a guy like Chad, how's a guy like Pat, how's someone like Christine, how's someone like Sarah or Sue or any of the other people watching, how in the world do we make an impact and make a change short of just sitting back and throwing up our hands and saying, well, it's all a crap show, I'm done, I'm not being involved anymore? Because that's what a lot of people are doing. We're right back to it. Right after this midterm election, people are just back to it. And some of it's lackadaisical approach to things. Some of it's they don't care anymore because they're tired of losing. And they've been told the third party is not an option, whether it's the Green Party or the Constitution Party or the Libertarian Party or the Constitutional Republic Party that just launched here in the last couple of days. See Bull Johnson's video on his YouTube. And we'll be having Bull on to talk about that at some point. What does a Chad do in this situation? Because, and Chad, you know this, because clearly you've got some experience. You've been doing a lot of studying. The only way to make a difference is to get involved. What level, what direction do you go now that it's become clear that the uniparty is only interested in being the uniparty?
To me, the uniparty is just a part of the system, and the system
Agreed.
is operating exactly as it's supposed to be. You can be a part of the system of Walmart as a greeter, and you can go tell the CEO of your store or the corporate end, and you aren't going to make much difference. That's because you've accepted to be part of that system. You consented basically into it. So from what I'm understanding, you're asking me, how do you go into a system you want to change, but you really don't have much way to change it? And I would just say you quit the system. And if nobody is participating in the system, and again, look at the right of association, how can they force you to associate with them? You have that right. That's guaranteed. Go ahead.
And I'm not. Chad's natural on my channel. He just told the host of the show and the founder of the program to go ahead. So you just
now it's your turn.
You stole my channel from me, Chad. I'm so discombobulated by that comment. So basically, what I'm hearing is there's a reservation. You just there's kind of, you have to resign yourself to, you're never going to win. The system is too corrupt. It can't be fixed.
I don't think there's anything to fix. I believe it's operating specifically as it's supposed to.
So you don't think that a return to constitutional values and constitutional originalism by a dedicated group of individuals who are intent on doing the work and building up a party that's dedicated to that, you do not think there's a chance in hell that they can do it?
No, I believe that can, but I think there's a lot more changes that have to take place in the structure of everything that's set up. If you look at the Treaty of Peace, Treaty of Paris, from even the Library of Congress, the King of England is our treasurer of the United States. The Act of 1871 that created the Corporation of the District of Columbia, it all set up the system where we don't have control.
Okay, I'm not disputing that. Okay, I want you to hear. I'm not disputing that that to some degree they have done their level best to make sure that they seize the power from the actual government, which is we the people, under the authority of the Constitution. But do you think that then we're left at a place where we have to, as Tom Woods has recently released a book called National Divorce? Are we at a point where we have to look at national divorce? Or are we just stuck with this? There's nothing we can do, so you might as well just give up. It's a lost cause.
No, now just to backstep a little bit on what you said, talking about the Constitution and all that. The Constitution, as I said, allows for contract law. So that's where we're all being brought into, is these corporate contract laws.
And there again, I understand your point, but we have to be able to do something to make a change. Is it national divorce? Is it a third party being patient to take the time to build up? What do you see it being? Or do you honestly think that ultimately there's just no changing it?
No, I believe it's binding the officials to their oaths, because they can go two ways. They can go corporate, or they can be bound to their oath to the Constitution and upholding our rights. So if you're moving into the corporate system of, say the GOP, MN GOP, whatever it may be, or the corporate federal government or corporate state government, you're getting bound into contract law. So you have to watch the difference between the corporate contract law and your rights, and dealing with it that way.
And there again, I agree with you, but we do that through voting. We do that through putting up qualified candidates.
Okay, now look, if I could just step in real quick. Now I know I don't get mail-in ballots, but I know mail-in ballots are what Minnesota uses. Now
and we shouldn't. That should be done away with.
Yeah, and I agree with you. But the thing is
well, of course you do. I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. But what is that paper, that ballot coming in on? How is it titled? Is it the capital S state of Minnesota? So you're going into the corporate end of it?
Okay. And Chad, I'm not trying to be difficult.
I know.
I'm really not trying to be difficult. I think you and I could have a very interesting conversation sometime in the future about some of this with the capital letters versus the small, lowercase letters and all of that. I'm not disputing any of that. But all of that aside, are you saying that short of changing the way our ballots are even headed, there's no changing this without changing the ballots themselves? Or is there a room for a grassroots movement that circumvents the GOP, circumvents the DFL, and puts in place a movement of the people, for the people, by the people, to take back government, which is supposed to be in our hands anyway? Or is it a completely lost cause in your eyes?
I believe there is a remedy for it, but I believe is It has to be that they're bound, the officials. I don't care if they get elected through a corporate means or any other means. They have to be bound to their oaths and not be able to wear that other hat in the corporate end. But people don't do it.
But how do people affect that change?
Go up to them, go up to your official and tell them, okay.
And then you get kicked out like Eric did.
Yeah.
Or laugh in your face.
But again,
Chad and I did not work this.
Okay, and then go do whatever the hell they want anyway.
Chad and I did not work this out ahead of time, but Chad set me up. So
no, but I agree with that with Eric. I mean, God bless him for what he's doing. But if the MN GOP is private, even if he is credited as a journalist or whatever, if he comes onto my property and I don't want him here and I'm private, I can kick him off of there unless he has a warrant.
Which is legit, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's good for him to do that. But if they're private and not a public entity on public property, they have a right to kick him out of there. And he could easily get fined with trespassing. And that's the last thing I want to see. I don't want people to take.
Actually, I think people need to start taking those charges. People need to start being willing to be trespassed and fight it. And this goes to, and I'm not knocking Eric. Eric, if you're watching still, I don't want you to hear me knocking you. I think you have the spirit of a lion in a very polite man's body. Which is why it was probably better for you to be there than me. But here's what needs to happen, and then Chad, I'll let you kind of have a last word. But what needs to happen in these situations is none of this is going to change. None of this. I don't care if it's happening at the grassroots level at BPOUs, or if it's independent media, journalists, commentators, whatever, showing up to capture this stuff happening. None of this changes until we start pushing people out of their comfort zones. And sometimes that might mean being willing to take a hit so that we can fight some of this stuff. And so, yeah, I don't want to see Eric get arrested for trespass. But if we know the law better than the GOP does, if we know the law better than the DFL does, and if we know the law better than the average cop on the street knows the law, we tie them in knots. And I've seen this over and over and over and over again with constitutional auditors who are like, okay, you're going to arrest me. Go ahead, put the cuffs on me. And the cops do the walk of shame and walk away because they know that the person that they're talking to literally knows the law better than they do. And that if they put the cuffs on them in that situation, they're going to lose in these courts. And we're seeing this happen over and over and over again. Even in the corrupted court system, they're like, the auditor was right. You're wrong. Your qualified immunity is gone. And that's where I think we make a difference, Chad. Do you think that forcing these people to violate people's constitutional rights puts them in a position where they're qualified? By the way, there should be a massive movement to end qualified immunity for everybody in the public sector, by the way.
I second that.
Do you think, Chad, that one of the ways that we crumble this system, as failed as it is by pulling away qualified immunity for cops and mayors and county commissioners and all of these other people?
I do, but a lot of that falls under the corporate end of it. And that's why if you bind them to their oath, then you have recourse against them. And back to, what you were saying with Eric as compared to the auditors of the cops and stuff like that. One of the differences is with the Minnesota GOP being private, they have the right to tell Eric to not be there.
Sure.
If you're on the street with a cop,
they have the right. They have the right to determine who comes in and who comes out. But even then, as a private organization, if they're allowing one member of the media in, and they're rejecting someone like Eric based on the reality that, or not the reality, but based on their subjective opinion that he doesn't have credentials, then they've already lost because there's no credentialing system in the United States from the media at all.
let's not forget. Let's not forget that they were more than happy to let him in there as long
until they
as
knew who he was.
until they heard his name, and then all hell broke loose.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
now,
like, keep that in mind.
yep,
Like, yes, all the trespassing talk, yeah,
I,
but it wasn't an issue until oh, you're Eric. Oh, we don't want you here.
I agree, but
And not to mention by law, what's his name? Chris.
And he proved their own hypocrisy right there.
Chris didn't have the authority to trespass him. It was a public school. The only person that had the authority was a public school official, and they did not have that. And the cops couldn't technically trespass him without that authority. And if they went and sought that authority, that's soliciting a trespass, which is unlawful for law enforcement to do.
Well, if you look at that school board that owns that school is also going to be a DBA or a corporation, and then they're making a private contract with the MN GOP, which is also private, which makes it a private contract. So then you have other issues there, which means, it's like, yeah, they can say this to one party, but if the Star Tribune comes and wants to come in and talk to you at your place or someplace you've rented, and you allow them, they can. If the whatever it may be, the Grand Forks Herald comes in and wants to, but you don't want them there, you don't have to allow them there.
I don't dispute that. But there are certain protections and there are certain things in place, and just from an optics level alone.
Yeah, where are they in place? Those protections, where are they?
So when you solicit law enforcement to come in and remove somebody of the media, and there was just a ruling in the Minnesota courts this year that law enforcement cannot demand credentials of somebody in the media to determine whether or not they're valid media. And that media is not required to follow even a lawful command to vacate an area when law enforcement gives it. The courts have ruled that in Minnesota.
And it's on public property.
No. Which again, schools are public. Whether you want to say that they're a private entity because they're incorporated or not, schools are still funded by taxpayer dollars. And that's where a lot of these auditors are winning these cases, is because it is public and a public entity. And there again, I think we could have a really great conversation in a much longer venue sometime, Chad, about this. So maybe we should talk about that going
there are
forward.
Public schools and private schools and charter schools.
There are government-funded schools do not have the authority to give private control over to a private entity to set their own rules. They don't. They do not have that authority. And I know that we could debate, there again, some of this contract law and whatnot, but ultimately, law enforcement has been told you don't get to ask for credentials for people when they say they're from the media, and you do not get to force them to leave, and you cannot use force on them to do it. And that was just from February of this year, where that was ruled here in Minnesota. And I've got Eric working on it, by the way. Chad, I would love to have a conversation. You have my email address. Why don't you send me an email? Maybe we could work out having you come on sometime and talk about your views on some of this stuff. I think it'd be interesting for the audience.
Okay. Thank you very much for entertaining me, and I appreciate.
I hope you were entertained.
All you guys are doing. I really do. I mean,
I feel like Marcus Aurelius. Are you not entertained?
I'll sign off. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. See, everybody, I invited Chad in, and I didn't even bite him. Mostly because I think we agree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But boy, if you disagree, I'm going to punch you square in the Minecraft nose. So, Pat, where do you see Where do you see the future of the GOP in relation to the DFL and in the involvement of these grassroots constitutional originalists and more, classical liberal, maybe, small L libertarian types who have gotten involved? What do you see as being the future for them in the GOP in Minnesota?
Within the GOP?
That's
Is that
what
what
I
you said?
asked. I don't know
Okay.
why are you making me ask again? That's not fair.
I'm just making sure I understand. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I know how to answer that, quite honestly.
Do you think that I mean you're that grassroots rocks and cows constitutional originalist type conservative. Are you done with the GOP?
You throw me on there.
Yeah,
Like I
I
said,
threw you under. Yeah, there's a bus coming for you, and I just threw you right underneath it.
like I said, it's pretty hard to say that you have any integrity in what you believe in. And if you're going to sit by and watch that, even though you've done your damnedest to get involved and try to change it, but it's clearly it's clearly it's not going to happen.
It's not. So say it. Say it. If Pat, if you don't think it's going to change,
it's not going to change. It's not going to change.
What is left for people like you and Sarah and Chad and Christine and Sue and any of the and OG Snoop? What's left for you people? And I say because I already made my decision. So
for you people.
What do you mean by you people?
I'm not sure what you're getting at, TC.
No, if you don't think the GOP can be changed, what's left? Where do you go?
I'm not sure what you're getting at here. Are you trying to get me to drop it?
No, I'm not trying to get you to drop it. I'm asking you literally. Bull has announced. It was very clear. Bull has announced the Constitutional Republic Party.
Yeah.
But, okay, fine. But Bull can do that. And he can have a bunch of people. He could have you, me, and a bunch of other people from around the state involved. But everybody knows that third parties don't win their first shot out of the gate. They know that. It happens rarely. So what do people do? Do they need to resign themselves to several years of not winning anything to be able to gain any kind of substance? Or do you just have to continue to hold your nose and just vote for the lesser of two evils? What's left?
If you want to change, yeah, that's if you want to be able to change something and really send a message, because they've clearly sent their message that unless you're in their club, they don't want you. I think you should listen to that message. And like you said, there's the new Constitutional Republic Party, and I don't know how many people have seen it, but or the video that Bull put out the other day, explaining the direction and everything like that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you need to be able to, because it's not gonna you're not gonna fix the GOP from where it's at and what it's like you said, it's operating exactly as it was designed to. So yeah, to me it is worth it, because you may not win, it never happens in the first, but
say it,
like it's got to be done. It's got to be done.
So people have to be willing that so we have to say, so I'm going to say what I've never seen Pat struggle before, folks. I've never seen, I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know. I don't know what you put in your cigarette, but it clearly took away your, I'm going to say this right now. If you are a constitutional originalist, if you are a traditional conservative, if you're a paleo conservative, if you are tired of the status quo in Minnesota, it's going to get real painful for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you either have to stay in the Minnesota GOP or you have to walk away from it, and you have to be willing to start losing. Like not losing like the Minnesota GOP did, where they claim victory because we've gained strength and we've showed we're going to stand on our principles, which they don't. You have to be willing to watch this state devolve into New York and California. You have to be willing to do that. You have got to be willing to watch your taxes increase. You have got to be willing to watch social norms be changed right under your face in a supposedly rural agrarian state like Minnesota. You have got to be ready for the alphabet mafia to show up in Cass County's, county seat at their library and do, drag queen story hour and happening all over. You have got to be willing to take these hits to see people in the state of Minnesota get pissed off with you and then say Minnesota GOP is not doing anything about it. The DFL is definitely not going to do anything about it. What are our options? Is it Bull Johnson and the Constitutional Republic Party? Is it the Minnesota Libertarian Party, which is swinging to the Mises Caucus as we speak? What's it going to be? But you have got to be willing to take the hits. You've got to be willing to get punched in the mouth on a proverbial level. Or you just have to look around and say, it's Florida, it's New Hampshire, or it's Texas. That's what you're left with. People in Minnesota have to get pissed off enough that they'll start voting for solid constitutional originalist candidates in a third party, because the Minnesota GOP is not interested in changing anything at all. They're not interested in changing. And Pat was a witness. You got to be willing to hurt. You have got to be willing to hurt.
And like I said, after witnessing that on Saturday, I can't in good conscience say that with an ounce of integrity and stand by and watch that and be a party to. And I don't think many other people feel like they can either. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Look yourself in the mirror and tell me that they're doing what you want them to do. If you can't, make that hard decision and consider, like the Constitutional Republic Party, you know, because I mean, you really want to get back to and get away from what we're all, what we don't like, what we want to fix. Let's fix it. Apparently we got to do it our way,
Right.
because they're not going to accept you into their club to let you attempt to change it because it works well for them. On a personal level, it doesn't work for us, but it works well for them.
100% agree. Absolutely 100% agree. What I guess I could get people to understand is there's a lot of you in the crowd, in my viewership and fan base, whatever the terminology is that you want to use. I hate the term fans, but that's what everybody else uses. But listeners, viewers, watchers, whatever. But here's what it comes down to. Absolutely comes down to. If you're in the Minnesota GOP right now and you're a constitutional originalist, you're a traditional conservative, and you continue to stay in this party, you have to question your ethics. You have to question your principles. You have to. You have no choice. And this is coming from someone who's really kind of been a lifelong Republican in a lot of principled ways. I have, I love my friends. I have a firm love for Walter Hudson. And I'd say this to him, and I'm going to try and get Walter on here at some point. I'll say this to Walter's face, and he knows I'd say it to him. So if he sees this, Walter, I love you, bro. You have to start asking yourself, is this a party I want to be part of anymore? Do I really want to be part of this party? And after what we've seen for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, but especially this last election cycle, over the last few months, I want nothing to do with the Minnesota GOP. They don't represent me. They got a few people in there that might, but overall, they don't represent me. They do not give a damn about me. They don't give a damn about you. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. Got news for you. Donald Trump is not a man of the people. Joe Biden is not a man of the people. Tulsi Gabbard, even though I disagree with her on a lot of things, is a woman of the people. Massey and Rand Paul, men of the people.
Mm-hmm.
They are, but they're the oddities in their parties. They are the oddities in their parties. And it is time for the rest of you to stop thinking that you can change the Minnesota GOP. You can't. You were never going to change it, because if they start seeing you get to power, they'll just disband your BPOU. Ask Kitson County.
They'll tell you all about it.
What are they going to do to you? What can they really do to you? Kick you out of the party? Oh, well, they aren't listening to you anyway. So why stay? Why stay? Pat, we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. So
that's okay. And you know, like just to piggyback.
I'm glad you say it's okay. I need to pee. So
okay. But no. But exactly. That's who I'm talking to here, or you know, who we're talking to here is those people that if you're questioning yourself of can I really like I'm challenging you. Take a look in the mirror and ask yourself if you can stand by with a shred of integrity and say that you're okay and you're going to continue to support that, because silent support is compliance. You know what I mean? Am I messing that up? But you're going along with it. You're part of the problem. So I mean, take a look in that mirror, and you know, I mean, it's decision time. They've made theirs. They've made theirs. They don't want you. That's was pretty clear to me Saturday.
You asked me how I end the show, and I told you I'd give you an opportunity to end your part of the show your way. So what do you like to? Because I'll make you sit in the green room and watch me close the show. But what do you like to tell people?
Stay vigilant, everyone.
That is a phenomenal thought process for everybody who's still sitting in the GOP and thinks that they don't have an option. Stay vigilant, and then let your vigilance dictate your decision making. And if your vigilance doesn't throw up red flags right now, you've got problems. So, Pat, you know, you're always welcome, and I know that you might know somebody who might be running the Navigating the Northwoods page on Facebook, and so you tell that person who's running that that Christine and TC appreciate it. Whoever that person,
I'll pass along the message.
Might be, sir. And we're waiting for the order for the beanies. I'm just throwing that out there.
Friendly reminder.
Friendly. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate you feeding me information from the convention on Saturday. I'm hoping that we can have the private video recording of Eric's interaction with St. Cloud PD. And when I get that, I'll make sure that you know how to get that to that person who runs Navigating the Northwoods. So you get a hold of Bull and tell him we're going to try and get him on here to talk about his new party.
Yeah, I can do that, definitely.
Well, I appreciate it, sir. You have a good night. Thanks for doing this.
Right. Yep, definitely. Anytime.
Take care.
All right.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate everybody watching tonight. I didn't know how long it was going to go. I think it's been a great delving into, you know, and Chad's got some really good really good points about how the parties work. I don't dispute that at all. But I think we have to, in the process of waking everybody up, we have to get people who are willing to step outside of the comfort zone of just holding their nose and voting for one side of the uniparty or the other. And people have to start being willing to suffer some pain. And I'm not talking about a recession or even a depression, because I know we're all feeling the pain of really crappy leadership in the United States right now. And as I told a friend of mine, Kevin, the other day, if you think this recession is strictly an issue of Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris, you're crazy. Trump brought as much of this recession on as anybody else did. He is as much to blame for this as anyone else, because everybody at the federal level for the last 20, 30, 40 years has been building to this point. We don't get to give them a pass because we happen to like them because they're a populist. They're a populist type. We have to be willing to give them credit where credit is due and give them blame when they deserve the blame. And that's what's happening here. All of this is a culmination of really bad leadership, because people have held their noses and voted for a very long time for that person they thought most represented them, without actually stopping and asking the freaking question, does this person actually represent me, and how do I make a difference? Where I've been asserting this for over 2 years now, where we make a difference is taking over our city councils, taking over our mayoral spots, taking over our school boards, taking over our library boards, taking over our county commissions, and we train people up at those levels so that then they can start to go up and take those constitutional principles and put them in place at the state level House and the state level Senate, and then in these other constitutional offices across the state. We train these people up and we get them involved at the local level, and this is where we make the difference. And here's the thing. All of you sitting on your hands, all of you sitting here saying, I got to stay in the GOP because that's the only place for conservatives, pull your heads out of your collective derrieres and be willing to suffer a little bit. The United States is a first world country. The worst pain that you're going to feel is, I didn't win the election. That's it. I didn't win the election. I will guarantee you right now, there are people in China who wish they had a party they could vote for, who wish there was a third party, who wish there was just a way for them to show their dissent without getting locked in a building and burned to death. But you keep staying with the Minnesota GOP. You keep staying with the GOP across the United States as a whole. You keep doing that, and pretty soon it's going to be you locked in your house as it burns to the ground. Because you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, thinking it's going to change when it's never going to change, because the GOP in Minnesota especially is only interested in suckering you into giving them your money to vote the right way. And then they take your money and they support lackluster, spineless, penny-waste candidates like Tory Westrom or Kurt Dowd or Scott Jensen, knowing they're not going to win. It's up to you right now to decide, am I tired of getting beat up by the party that claims to represent me, and I'm finally going to go out, even if it means we don't win another election for another 4, 5, 6 cycles, and build up a party out there somewhere that can give these two jackwads of the DFL and the GOP a run for their money. Maybe we can scare them into submission. And that's what needs to happen. The GOP needs to be terrified that they're never going to win anything ever again. And Nathan Wiesenberg proves that if you stick to your guns, you can win in your district. That's what happens. But I got news for you. When Nate gets up there, he's not going to have anybody to caucus with, because they are not going to like Nathan Wiesenberg. And if Walter Hudson, and I know Walt well, Walt goes up there and sticks to his guns, he's not going to have a caucus. Because the new House Republican caucus is going to do what the new House Republican caucus always does, and they talk big, but in the end, they vote however the party wants them to vote. Sorry, if you don't like it, it's what it is. A lot of you don't like me anyway. And the offer is open to Mike Lonergan, or whatever his name is, or to Chairman Hahn. You want to come out here and defend your guys' record? I welcome you. I'll be civil to you. I will be polite to you. I will treat you with dignity, but I'm not going to give you a pass. I want you to come on and explain this. I want Mike to come on and explain how he treated Eric. I would love for that to happen. So if you know anybody in the leadership of the State Central Committee or the chairman, you let them know. I would love to have them come on and give a defense for their position. I already know what the answer is going to be. I know what it's going to be. It's going to be a big fat no. Because they're cowards. I probably just, any chance I would have had, probably just went out the window when I called them cowards. But anyway, I appeal to your pride. Somebody called me a coward, I would defend my position. And I would. I'll go on anybody's platform, or if you want to come on my platform and disprove me, embarrass me on my own platform, I would love for you to do that. Once again, a big thanks to my Subscribe Star supporters. A big thanks to my friends over at the Arden Sales Groups for all that they do for me. Thanks to people like Tomsky in Great Britain, who has supplied so much for the show, to Larry, who has also supplied so much to the show. And for everybody that watches, who never says anything, and the people that share and never comment, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I just ask that you would, because they are pushing me down in the algorithm. I got almost 2,400 subscribers, and I get 150 views on some of my videos. That just doesn't make sense. So we know that they are pushing me down because I don't speak approved opinions as so often. Oh, and by the way, friends, not only am I asking you guys to come and buy merchandise from me so I can help support Dana, or go over and donate directly to Dana's Give, Send, Go. I will try and put the link in this description of this video. If you give $100 or more between now and the end of January, I will give you a $15 credit. If you buy from me, Dana gets 15% of that by the end of January. The other part of that is Dana and I are going to be doing a Rumble exclusive series, specifically addressing COOF protocols, and that's going to be launching here very soon. Hopefully we're going to be recording our first introductory episode of that tomorrow night, and putting that out on Rumble sometime over the weekend. So she's got a compelling story, and she has a lot of people who have experienced medical authoritarianism over the last few years because of the medical industrial complex. If there's anybody giving the military industrial complex a run for their money right now, it is the medical industrial complex. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for a lot of great content coming out, especially as we head into the new year. And as always, my friends, not only do I appreciate you watching, but I want you to fight for your liberty. It is yours. Fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. And until next time, my friends, Sic Semper.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. you are authorized to fire at